Good morning, folks. How is it going? Welcome to the cage, and I wanted to take a minute and talk about this article real quick, where uh, Yoshisan was commenting on a lot of the feedback that's going on around World of Warcraft, in this talk that Final Fantasy XIV has beat World of Warcraft, and I kind of wanted to share my perspective on this more ongoing, well, there is a bit of an issue with the player base, and I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not speaking about specifically for Warcraft or Final Fantasy, but in general, that fans get really passionate, and some are just toxic for the sake of being toxic, while others are genuinely want both games to be good. I'm one of the ones that want both games to be good, as there is a reason I played Warcraft for, or basically since vanilla, for 15 years. And it's because I genuinely felt that Warcraft was a very well done game. You were exploring the world. But recently, or I feel like that Warcraft has gotten away from what made it good. It shifted away from a narrative about exploring the world, about learning about the world that's been built, about the characters that are in it, and you're now more focused on the characters themselves and the stories that are not very well built. As it's not a very good narrative at this point, and that you can love a game and be critical of it at the same time. You can love the franchise, you can love the stories, and still be critical of them and know where they can improve. That's true of Warcraft, it's true of Final Fantasy, it's true of any game that you can get passionate about. And I think that's part of what Yoshi-san was getting at here, is that it shouldn't be a debate about which game is better, but about figuring out the way forward for both games. So right now, to me, Final Fantasy is easily, or a very well built narrative, a very good story to experience, a very great game to play. That's not to say that Warcraft shouldn't be enjoyed. If Warcraft is a game that you're enjoying right now, by all means, enjoy it. Go have fun in Azeroth. But for others who are not having a good experience there, that's why there are other games like Final Fantasy. For me, I'm not particularly enjoying the game that is World of Warcraft right now. That's why I'm not paying for the subscription. As I don't think the design is great, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people who played Final Fantasy 1.0, I was not one of those folks, but I've done a lot of research on it, so I have a better understanding of the history of Final Fantasy 14. A lot of folks that played 1.0 could probably make the same argument that it was a game that they wanted to play, a game they wanted to appreciate, a game they wanted to experience. And when and they probably understood there were a bunch of shortfalls, but they wanted to support the game. And I completely understand that. There's a reason I managed to or go through all of BFA and all Shadowlands, because I felt at the time that there was or better things on the horizon. But I think the difference between Final Fantasy 1.0 and Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn 2.0 is that they listened to feedback. They understood they had to make changes. They actually took the player feedback into account, especially the ones who stuck with them during all of the patches leading up to A Realm Reborn, or when they basically redid the game from just about scratch. They listened to that feedback, and I think that was the key difference between or Final Fantasy 2.0 and the difference between Shadowlands and Battle for Azeroth. Or Shadowlands really just it feels like they tried to do more of the same that did not work in Battle for Azeroth. They're trying to overcomplicate systems, add new systems that are kind of the same theme as the ones that a lot of players just did not want. A lot of the content is rinse and repeat, and it's very grindy without a real purpose in the end. The reward system doesn't feel very unique anymore. It feels like they're just taking old mounts, reskinning them, and putting them back in. So there's a bajillion mounts anymore that are almost meaningless because a lot of them are just recolors. And there's the cosmetics, there aren't enough of them, and they're not really that unique anymore because they're recolors of the same things too. So, I mean, they have elements that are genuinely good. The world itself does have a unique theme. The world itself has unique races, unique peoples. I'm not going to dispute this. The transmog system of Warcraft is top notch. I think that's something that Final Fantasy could learn from. Or, but there are plenty of things on the inverse too that where Warcraft could look to Final Fantasy 14 for inspiration. Because one thing I would love to see Final Fantasy or or translate to Warcraft on is the job system. Because let's be honest here, or when a job gets changed in Final Fantasy, say you like to play or samurai, and a balance change happens so where it doesn't feel as good to you anymore, but you still enjoy it, but you want to change to something else, or see maybe if it feels better, like a ability got changed to where it has a little bit longer range, so or it hits a little bit harder from a certain angle, and you want to see how that feels. You can change into that job and not lose forward progress on your character. So in a real sense, it makes it alt friendly. In World of Warcraft, you have to roll a whole new character. You have to basically start from scratch. So there are ways that they could learn from each other and improve and make a genuinely great experience that all players can enjoy. And some people will want the more just action or PvP focus that Warcraft has got. Other people will want the story that Final Fantasy has got. I mean, there's different strokes for different folks. But my point is that Yoshi is right. Both games are meant to coexist. They're meant to be good. So, but as a player of both, I would be remiss if I didn't or point out the ways that I feel that World of Warcraft can improve in videos that I make. And I could go at length of things that I think that classic Warcraft got right that have been lost or along the way for modern Warcraft that I just can't support anymore. Is that's why I canceled my sub. Is if you don't enjoy a product, you don't use it, you don't play it, don't pay for it. There's no shame in that. It just means that it's not a product you enjoy anymore. And if you want to, or a company to improve the product, you want to come back, you can't keep paying for it because that's saying, hey, I don't like your product because I'm not logging into it, but I'm paying you anyway, so there is no incentive at all for them to improve. They're just going to keep thinking, like, okay, we're still getting paid, so we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So, as a player of these games, the best feedback you can get is your sub. If you don't enjoy what's doing, you don't enjoy what's going on, you don't enjoy the decisions being made by the developers of these titles, don't pay for the sub. Give them that feedback when you cancel your sub. But that's not, you don't have to be toxic about it. You don't have to say, oh, this game sucks, it's dead. Like, no. That's the wrong narrative, and I will agree completely with Yoshi on that. Was both games should be good. Because if one's healthy and the other is healthy, that means competition is happening. That means both games are growing. The player counts are going to fluctuate. The accounts are going to fluctuate. That's par for the course. But if these games are thriving, or doing something a little bit better than the other guys, or doing something that makes them unique and likable, then that means that they are doing what they should as developers, as game designers. Because right now, the reason there are games like Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy 14, Ashes of Valhalla, the reason these games are growing is because they realize that there is a section of the market right now that is not being served. And Warcraft was at the top so long that the reason this conversation is happening is because, or they got lax. And that's not bashing the game. That's just an objective criticism as best I can be, or from my perspective, having seen other games. And I want Warcraft to get back to that point where they were good, what made them great. But they needed this. They needed that kick in the side to or shake the cobwebs. They needed that little bit of a wake up call saying, hey, just because you have been the top for 15 years does not mean you are going to stay at the top. If you don't innovate, if you don't get back to what made you good, if you don't listen to your players, then these other MMOs are up and coming, and they are not going to hold their punches back. They are going to keep doing what they do best. They're going to serve their player base and attract new people, and they could topple you. That is the message that is being sent to them right now. And it's not necessarily because these other games are aiming specifically for World of Warcraft to take it down. No, they're just wanting to make a good product. That's all they're doing. And Warcraft, well, they got caught sleeping. And hopefully, this is a wake-up call that Blizzard needs to basically take Ian Acosta or into the boardroom, or not in front of the board, but kind of that one-on-one talk, saying, "Hey, what can we do to help you make this product better? What can we do to help you or make a better vision here?" And not bash him, but I don't think he's just overwhelmed. I think he's out of his element because he was the raid designer. So, who could help him make an overall better game? Like, what consultants could be called in to help him start putting things together in a better way? Like, these are the questions I would be asking him, or not to throw him under the bus, but to see what he needs to make his job a little bit easier, what he can do to serve the customers better, so how he can be helped to make things better. That's what Yoshi's getting at here. That if we bash each other, we're not getting anywhere. We have to work with each other and move forward. That's my thoughts on this article. I would love to hear what you guys think. I will put the link to this article in the description below. And I look forward to seeing what you think. And I hope to hear from y'all soon. Have a good one.